wait a second. We'll
Record is on.
Yeah. So, hey, hello everyone, and welcome to the Monday, September 13th, 2021 DXDAO BizDev call. And yeah, on the BizDev call today, first we have Artyom. That's correct, right? Artyom. From Index Corp, who will talk about basically a DXDAO and treasury diversification to the BED index. Under the DXbiz discussions, we have Arbitrum and Swapper, and some of the next steps, farming and like ebook strategy. We have a follow up on hats. That's the proposal for a grant is about to pass, I believe. DXDAO Dev multi-chain Gnosis Safe. Carrot, some interest and plan that we've been, like the DXbiz team has been discussing, and DX Vote discussions. Under events, we have, I guess, John and Sky are in MCon. We have the DX events proposal that has passed. Mainnet is happening like later this week in NYC, and I think a lot of people are coming to Lisbon, and we have a couple of things before that as well. And yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, so Ayarton, do you want to start?
Yeah. So again, my apologies for the abrupt start that I gave. I should have waited a little bit, but other than that, thank you all again so much for having me on this call. I really appreciate it. I am actually part of Bankless DAO. So I work for the Analytics Guild, and I also work alongside with Index Corp and their treasury team, along with their institutional business development team as well. So again, everyone, thank you so much for having me on this call and taking the time to meet with me. And so I'll get right into it. So the Bankless team is looking to have DXDAO purchase the BED index. I don't know exactly how much you guys want to purchase, or in this case, mint the BED token. I don't know what your guys' range is. Typically, we try and shoot for the range of 100,000 to $1 million. So that's the current range that just wanted to get a sense of how much are you guys looking to mint that would, I guess, fit your guys' treasury budget.
I would say 100K would probably be the minimum, and $1 million would be the maximum. Just kind of shooting from the hip. So. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you can see if you look at the treasury on Etherscan, I think the Ether value is currently at 45 million. There has been some already established diversification efforts into stable coins, and there's about $2 million of USDC, I think in a million of a couple other stable coins. So that might give you some sense of
the
scale that we're operating at. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. No. Thank you. If you could you send me that Etherscan link so that way I could
post it right now.
Thank you. Awesome. So with the BED index, so if you look, so the name kind of implies itself, right? It's 33% Bitcoin, 33% ETH, and 33% of the DeFi Pulse index. And so with that being said, the BED index is maintained through a determination phase, where the determination phase takes place during the 4th week of the month, and it is the phase when the change is needed for the next reconstitution are determined. And the reconstitution phase is, again, the second phase, where we are looking at the publication of the determination phase outcome. The index composition will change to new weights on the first Friday of the following month. So the components will be added or removed. That's how the BED index is maintained. I don't know if Arhat had shared you guys the proposal document that I had sent to him, but there are some other important benefits to this. Is that number one, it was audited twice. The smart contract was audited twice by Open Zeppelin, and that there is no governance risk. In fact, the governance risk is very similar to the DPI index. And thirdly, the other benefit that you have with treasury diversification with bankless DAO is that we have a huge social capital. We have about 75,000 Twitter followers. We have about 70,000 YouTube subscribers. So we are growing exponentially. We just had a podcast with Kathy Wood from ARK Investments, CEO. We've also had guests like Mark Cuban, Vitalik Buterin. We've also had Hayden Adams, Joseph Rosenthal. So there is a huge social capital and branding that can be utilized with this treasury diversification. And the Bankless DAO team could more than happy do a marketing campaign with DXDAO to further spread the awareness, as well as also look at products that we could also mention on the marketing campaign. So that's one of the really great benefits of having the BED index, is because you have the Bankless name on an asset, and you can also utilize that brand to further reach your social capital network. Any questions?
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. I mean, I see how this would be a great tool for allowing good access to this like diversified like set of goods, right? Like index of tokens. So the DXDAO treasury is predominantly in Ether already. So I guess the diversification would be, more for the other parts of the index, right? Like the WBTC and the DPI.
Right. Yeah. Right. And again, I think the other thing I want to mention too is that, like you said, like this is all about diversification, right? So the one thing you got to look at is that, yes, there is Bitcoin in it, but the thing is that if you are a very well diverse like treasury, you would have BTC in your treasury. And if you already have ETH and if you already have DPI, those are already the composites. You just swap it for like, BED, and there you go. You have an index fund within an index fund, because the DPI Pulse is made up of 20 different like index funds. I think it's almost up to like 60 now too. So there's a lot of benefits with this. You have the index co-op name, and then you also have like, Ether as part of that index fund.
Artem, would you say that the BED index is mainly like a consumer product index so far?
I would say, can you kind of elaborate more on what you mean by a consumer product?
Like individual people, it's a good way for people to kind of easily get crypto exposure, like as a person, when they're like entering this space for the first time, kind of thing, rather than like an institutional management product.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like this is the whole like reason why the product was made to begin with, right? You're looking at like some of the top 3 like crypto assets in the space. So somebody who's looking at it from a retirement standpoint is also willing to get into the crypto space very easily. Most people, when they look at like retirements, they want to look at index funds, right? Because you want to invest over the next like 20 to 40 years. So this is that asset where you get exposure to crypto. It's very easily. You have 3 of the biggest asset names in the crypto space, and it's an index fund, and it's not as volatile, if you will, to again like BTC and ETH and DPI. If you just hold those assets alone, you have a combination of 3 of those assets. So that's the really beautiful benefit of this, right? Is that we just ran a Gleam campaign where we had 1,000 people like swap for BED tokens, and they even minted. So there's a lot of added benefits to this being a very easily consumer-based product, right? It's like, this is not meant for like, like the hedge funds to begin with. No, this was like mainly purposely for the consumer. And again, based off of network effects, is when you have more and more people adopt this token, that's the organic growth, and that's when the institutional investors come in later. But by the time the institutional investors come in later, the consumers have already built this organic network.
Yeah, cool. So we're like I'm very familiar with the BED index and bankless community. We recently launched Swapper on Arbitrum. So BED token index as like a treasury management thing for DXDAO makes probably less sense for like the reason John said. We kind of have a lot of ETH. We already are exposed to DeFi, and we can have BTC. But the really interesting thing would be to like help. So we actually did a Swapper token drop to like key members of the bankless like governance community. So, like you probably have Swapper token if you check. What would be really cool is to basically help bring BDI as a token to become like a really solid pool on Arbitrum, because you've seen Arbitrum now has $2 billion on it. I don't think BDI is probably, or sorry, not BDI, BED index is probably there yet, but we could use Swapper to basically help build up like BED presence on Arbitrum and incentivize those pools with Swapper token. And I think it's a great product for like the regular person to hold for sure, especially like newcomers. And like it would be awesome to do more with Bankless and the products that Bankless has influenced. So that would be my most interesting thing to do. We like obviously we could buy some BED index in order to also put our own capital into that pool, and then even do that maybe with Bankless if you guys wanted to also put in capital to that pool, and then we could also incentivize it and have it become a really big important pool on Swapper on Arbitrum, that would be a cool idea to explore, I think.
Yeah, and that's definitely a great idea. I can I don't know if you guys are familiar with Lucas Campbell. He is an editor for the Bankless HQ team, and this is his product. So I would more than happily propose that idea. If we could again speak after this call. What was your name that you who is this again?
Sky.
Thank you.
Yeah. Usually the next step would be to open like a Telegram group with a couple of people who are interested in leading this from like the DXDAO side and the BED index side. And I just want to say I'm not sure I fully agree with no diversification, like that it doesn't make sense to diversify. I think like both things are like valuable, and I think like I would like to see some Bitcoin exposure inside like the DXDAO. But so we could probably this would probably be a proposal. I think Dave here is sort of like responsible for the treasury diversification proposals, and like I'm personally like I would vote for buying and holding BED index strictly for like treasury diversification. So
yeah, I mean, I also agree with the diversification, but I think what Sky is saying is an angle that makes more sense simply because DXDAO already is like overexposed ETH and also holds DPI. So I mean, just if you look and WBTC, and so it sort of just doesn't really make sense to use BED for a treasury that's already got exposure to the underlying assets. It's like adding, not that I'd be that worried about it. Like you said, you have the audits and stuff, but if you're in the position of doing the treasury management, Dave is actually kind of leading that effort. He just joined. Like one of the considerations is to try to be conservative on like different dimensions of risk, and why would you add additional smart contract exposure when it actually doesn't give you access to new assets? So but like Sky said, like we can really appreciate the consumer angle of the BED index, and I think there's some other synergy that could work with DXDAO there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And I think like the one thing I would add is like, again, like I'm a little bit like biased like to the BED index, because again it rebalances, and it also has like the rebalancing of the weight of the assets. So like you don't have to like, I understand though you guys have the underlying assets, but the but that's the whole purpose of the index fund, right? It's like it rebalances like, every month, right? Like people don't have to like worry about it. So I see your point with the like underlying assets. Again, that's just my opinion. But again, like, there's definitely something that can be worked out for sure. If the overall consensus.
That's definitely a good point. Like that's an added benefit that you could maintain.
So the one thing is, if you're only holding like 300,000 of the bed index, or like 500,000, or even $1 million, as a part of the treasury, which is $90 million, rebalancing 1% or 3% of a $90 million treasury to one third of assets that you already have, like the rebalancing basically doesn't matter anymore. That's the one thing. You'd have to put the majority of the treasury into the bed index for the rebalancing to like take effect,
I see what you're saying. Yeah, because like it's like you have like a 90 million like treasury, and like again 1 million is like the bet. So I see your point in terms of like the effect that would have, but I still do believe that like it still makes a difference. And I think like just even having that 1%, right, Sky? It's like if you have that 1% and you have like investors or like people like in your community that see that you have the bed index, so that kind of may spark like an opportunity for your consumers or for your like community members to get into that index themselves, because you're like, hey, like if the protocol already has it. And I would also actually add that when we look at the bed index compared to DPI, ETH, and BTC, DPI, the bed index actually performed 3% better than all the assets over that same time frame, if not higher, at a 5%.
Is the bed index built on balancer technology?
I don't believe.
It's built on set protocol, not balancer.
Set protocol, yes.
Is set its own protocol, or is that leverage balancer? Do you know?
It's their own protocol. They have an auction system for rebalancing. They're typically sourcing a lot of the liquidity on that themselves, but they don't earn fee. There's not like the protocol itself earns fees from that, but it goes back to the.
Either way, like for sure we should focus. I think we should do something with bed, and I think having a big pool, and this could be on mainnet, this could be on. I don't know where your biggest pools are right now, but probably not on Arbitrum. And if Arbitrum is like exciting to the bankless community, we could help bring the bed index to Arbitrum, and I think that would get a lot of recognition. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say that the DXDAO treasury has sort of a dual purpose. Like obviously the main one is to fund development, and that's why diversification is important for stability over the long run. But the other important aspect of the DXDAO treasury is also to support DXDAO products with liquidity from the treasury. So you mentioned rebalancing. So the DPI and WBTC that DXDAO already has, a decent portion of that is actually in DXDAO's DEX swapper. So we're actually already doing effectively this rebalancing that you're talking about through these 50-50 swapper pools that are ETH DPI and ETH WBTC. So again, like, I mean, I totally understand how BED is an attractive asset, but I think like a more appealing angle here is that the, supporting the products, right? Like, because I think that lines up well with the things that you've mentioned, like the strong media presence and social capital of the bankless community, and also the DXDAO treasury mission to support its own products. So I think the angle that Sky is going down here, where can we find a way to support the BED index being used and like incentivized within DXDAO products? And it's maybe more interesting.
It's great timing because we're about to launch the biggest farming campaigns we've ever had, and
awesome.
And BED, could definitely be maybe not in the first epoch, but could be included quite soon for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like there's definitely ways to support the product guys, right? It's like if the general consensus, whatever that may be, like obviously is to support like, the bed index, there definitely will be a way. And I can bring in like, the contacts that I have at the index co-op treasury team. And I can certainly have them like, answer any questions that you guys have in more detail. Because obviously this is also their part of their asset as well. This is one of their North Star assets. So we can definitely bring more conversation to this as well.
Yeah, and as Nylan mentioned, actually a couple of us are in Denver this week for MCon, and I see that it looks like somebody from Index Co-op is actually going to be at the conference. So we'd be happy to connect with any of your folks that are here this week as well. For sure.
Yeah, so usually the next step would be, as I said before, like a Telegram group. And Nathan Arhat, if you're here, I guess you're here. Like, could you start up a group and share the invite link in the Keybase? And then I think we can start moving it from there.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah. So, well, thanks for joining. And this is something exciting. And I think I'm personally very bullish on this, both on the diversification and the swapper collaboration. And yeah, like we have really big plans for Arbitrum, and yeah, would love to collaborate with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I can also bring in Lucas Campbell as well on this. There's another individual. He's pseudo-anonymous. His name's Frog Monkey. He also is part of the Bankless HQ LLC team, and they both work very closely with me, as well as with another individual who is in charge of our marketing as well. So we can definitely set up a Telegram group to get this thing rolling and further discussions moving forward.
Awesome. Yeah, so thanks for your time. If you want to stick, like we're actually going to be talking about, like the next thing we're going to be talking about is the Arbitrum and Swapper sort of discussion about, farming and, our epoch strategy.
Yep.
And yes, Sky, do you want to, or Sky or Zet, do you guys want to discuss this?
Oh, well, so it was really just to get everyone on the same page in terms of timing. I think there was some calls over the weekend and this morning with like the launch of Swapper and the token and timing up, which will likely happen later this week. And so planning like the start date of farms and the announcements around it will, I think the rough plan is that there'll be a countdown where once Swapper is live on Arbitrum and ready to use and the conversion can happen, the farms will likely start like maybe like 12 to 24 hours later. So it will give people time to do the conversions to the new Swapper token that they need to do, position liquidity and things, and they will know that like X number of farms, I think eight or so pairs will be the initial launch, or actually 9 pairs on Arbitrum, and like that will be shared around with the article. Obviously, Bankless like helps spread the announcements around the Swapper token drop and things, and also if once these farms are live, it's a good opportunity for all the different communities who have received Swapper token and want to participate to like share it once more with their communities. And there should be some decent APYs, and so like just getting all the communities that have a connection or are involved in the Swapper token or the upcoming campaigns, getting them aware of when the farms will start, because the farms are the exciting part. So yeah, we'll share. Yeah, I was in touch with Frog Monkey, so we'll share that with you, Arden, and the Bankless community when the farms are ready to go, and any help promoting that would be awesome. And then that should all happen actually this week, and then we can keep in touch on bed. But in general, that's just getting people aware of the timing for when the farms are probably going to happen, and then we can get that spread out. I don't know if anyone wants to add anything else.
Yeah, no, thank you, Sky. send me the I'm in contact with Arhat on Telegram. Excuse me, on Discord. So if you want to send me that link also, Sky, on Discord as well, that would be great as well.
Cool.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Andrew. Yeah, and just an additional note on the farming campaigns. I think it's important for everybody here to understand the process, and for folks, it's good to be in the Discord and connecting with the community. It's fairly active more active since Swapper Token launched, and a lot of people have been making great effort. I think especially Nathan at fielding questions in the field, so to speak. And it's important to know that people are going to need to migrate, right? Any liquidity on the current deployment of Swapper is going to have to go to the new one once it's up and running. And it's just to keep that in mind. So people can claim, the claimer is the same, right? So it's no additional steps if you claim now versus later. But if you're providing liquidity now on the existing system, you're going to have to take additional steps later to migrate over to the new system, which should be live on Wednesday if the current proposal passes.
Great. Anything else on that topic? So this is like going off on a tangent maybe, but I think we discussed this before about moving this specific call to the Discord, which might get us, more participants, at least more listeners from the community. So maybe something to continue thinking about.
Yeah, I would say that community is critical in crypto, right? And Discord is where our community lives. So I think it would be good to bring the contributors and the BizDev call closer to the community, because I think BizDev and the community itself are very tightly interwoven.
All right. So, we could do a proposal for this, or I could write maybe in the forums. I think we should do it. So yeah, maybe next week we'll start with that. Yeah, hats. Sky, do you want to touch on that? I think there's the proposal is about to pass.
Well, two things. One is the proposal is live, and people can vote on that, which would move actual money as the grant. And then separately, this was, I don't know, John, if there, I know this hasn't been a priority, but the process of getting the thing set up for participating in hats, is that just on hold for right now, or is there things that we need to finish or do to have that fully set up, I guess?
Yeah, and this is, apologies to folks with hats. It was a priority until it got sidelined by the need to do the redeployment on Arbitrum. So that has been basically the main focus for the last couple of weeks, and will be until it's live and everything is set. But the next steps on hats are to get the committee set up, right? Which is, I think we wanted to have a new multi-sig with mostly devs on it. And we have to just set up a JSON file, which specifies who's on the committee, what the different levels of bugs are, of severity, and what the corresponding reward would be out of the DXT staking pool. So there's a couple of steps left.
Yeah, so just to say, we can launch with something and then update it later on. It's not immutable, I guess. You can update that with a governance proposal in hats. So
yeah, that would be cool. If we had somebody who could have it, just the problem is the people that should be working on this, like myself, are at the moment very consumed with the redeployment.
Yeah, understandable. So I don't know. Let me know if I could help in any way to speed this up. And maybe we can sync on this outside this call.
Yeah, definitely. I think hopefully by the end of the week I should be able to get back to it. But I could try to set you up. It's that JSON file and getting the Telegram group working.
Yeah. Okay. So we can sync on this. There's a discussion about like the Gnosis safe, sort of like a multi-chain Gnosis safe, and then it appears that Gnosis safe is going to launch something new tomorrow. I asked like some of the Gnosis people for some alpha. I haven't heard anything yet. But yeah, it looks like there's like a new sort of like governance system around Gnosis safes. Yeah, Zodiac. So I don't know. Do you guys want to talk about like this cross-chain one?
Well, just in general, so especially with layer twos, we know there is a very important technology that needs to exist for DAOs or tools that DAOs use in order to do cross-chain actions. Like DXDAO has been using a like delegated Gnosis safe to do to move money across chains, mainly XDAI and mainnet. Obviously, this becomes a much bigger issue as we focus on L2s as well. L2s, well, ZK rollups and optimistic rollups, I think, have slightly different technology, but the act of moving money between chains, whether they're side chains or L2s, becomes a very complex issue. And DXDAO itself as a DAO in the current state of things does not have this ability. Part of the reason probably is, well, at least for L2s, is you may need the same address on both chains. Not really sure. We don't know the true answer to that yet. At this point, the technology appears that way. In that case, like having multi-chain tools such as a Gnosis safe at having access to that is a more and more important thing. The safe is not yet like usable on Arbitrum, but it hopefully will be soon. And so this announcement that's coming out from Gnosis, like, they have goals to like solve things that DXDAO like doesn't necessarily have a problem with, which is like showing the world like a path towards decentralization. So like most people that use snapshot and safes is like, how do they become actual real DAOs and more like DXDAO and like a token, a truly decentralized governance. So that's their, I think, goal with what they're rolling out. But part of that is the cross-chain communication, and the tools that they're releasing will allow cross-chain moves of tokens and also cross-chain communication, apparently. And now how safe that is and how it works is unknown just yet, but like there's talk that like a safe action on XDAI could trigger an action on Optimism or on Arbitrum, for example. And so like how that's done in a safe way is we'll see. But there are so Moloch DAOs in general like are tying in very closely with Gnosis safe technology. And I think since safes are really useful tools and they don't replace DAOs, and there's a certain amount of people that can be part of a safe, they're not like they can't become as well, they're probably not going to be as open and decentralized as like the DXDAO framework right now. But using the tools for like fractalization and squads and things, which we've been doing and will continue to do, if these tools get better, we can leverage them more. And so at some point, maybe DX Vote or Governance 2.0 actually like uses like safes embedded in like actions and things like that. And so it's interesting that this is being rolled out, and we'll keep an eye on it. There's nothing like we need to do today other than hopefully get the safe working on Arbitrum so that we can move, so that DXDAO has a way to move capital to Arbitrum, because right now DXDAO doesn't really have a solution for that. So that's, I guess this week everyone will learn more about exactly what these new tools allow, but it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so I agree with Ross. I don't think this is going to be replacing like, the DXDAO core, but, perhaps these Gnosis saves could act as sort of like squads, or I don't know, like guilds, or whatever we decided to call them. Yeah, like I'm following up on that, and like interesting to see like what will come out of it. So yeah. Yeah, so I mean, the next sort of item on the agenda is Carrot, which we've been discussing in the DX squad, the DXbiz squad, and yeah, Sky, if you want to take that.
Yeah, I guess there's not too much update since last week. We now have a few different projects in the works that are like ready to use when it exists. So like when this thing gets made, we can like test it ourselves for our own use case. We can do the smarter farming that we want to do instead of just like regular old farming. And then we will, I think the plan would be, because we were talking about from like a marketing perspective, is, normally like when a new product or a new thing is being released, like, and you kind of see it, I guess, with what Gnosis is about to launch, is like, I guess they haven't done marketing lead up, but initially if you launch a new big product, you have like a month or so of like leaking it out, or like saying this is coming. We haven't really done any of that around Carrot because we don't know when it's going to come out and exactly how far along it would be. And so likely it would be a very light MVP that we can use for like specific one-off use cases. So instead of like line up hundreds of people that want to start using it, I think the plan would be to get it to the point where DXDAO can use it itself. We could announce how we're using it, why it's valuable. We would launch with a couple other people that would want to be early users of it, and then as those use cases show either success or failure or whatever, we like expand it, and then we start expanding the people that would potentially use it. And so, yeah, excited for that, and that would hopefully get a little more focus over the next month or so, and then we could try it out.
Awesome. Like, this is really great. I'm personally like, I don't know, very bullish on Carrot. I think this is a great product, and
so
we can start.
Some people may still be wondering what the heck is Carrot. So do you want me to try to give a quick description?
Yeah, sure.
So the idea, and it's somewhat similar to things that have been developed and that people are talking about, called like KPI options, like UMA's KPI options. But the idea is to allow any project or party to create an incentive for something that is only paid out under a certain condition, right? So I think when this idea was first getting circulated, we were calling it like conditional tokens or conditional incentives. But now we're kind of probably going to brand it as Carrot. And so say like you're a project that is like a lending platform, for example, you want to incentivize total value locked when you launch your lending platform to get it going. So you could deposit some of the native token into Carrot, minting a Carrot token, and then you create a question that goes along with that, which could be, for example, will the total value locked in my new lending platform be $10 million by the end of October? And you maybe want to use like an average over a period of time, but that's getting more into the details. And then you could give out that Carrot token to people to incentivize them to provide that liquidity. And it would only, and then when that time period is up at the end of October, the folks with that Carrot token come and redeem it for the underlying project token in the Carrot system. But they can only redeem it if the condition actually is met, right? So if it reaches 10 million, then the people with the Carrot tokens get the lending project token. And if it does not, then those lending project tokens just go right back to the project. So the idea is to make it a little more refined in terms of incentives for folks, for projects. And so you could do categorical or scalar questions, like it could be yes or no, or you could give it a range like $10 to $50 million, and it could pay out kind of proportionally to where you are in that range. And you could distribute the tokens in different ways, right? Like you could potentially have people stake on the swapper farming campaign, or give it out in other ways through farming, or you could just send them to target audiences. But yeah, that's basically how I would describe it.
And obviously the name is on point with just like creating the right incentives for people to contribute and participate. So yeah. Any other comments about Carrot? Okay, do we want to talk about, so we have like a discussion about DXvote, and I think, yeah, so I guess you guys spoke to Eric, or like Sky, you spoke to Eric, who used to work for DAOstack. And he's sort of like advising or working with Rarible, and he asked me also about like using DXvote for some of their governance stuff. And yeah, he's at MCon, so like I would urge like for you guys to meet and figure out if DXvote could be used by them. I think this could be great. And yeah, I don't know if you want to add anything else about that, Sky.
Yeah, so it's just an example of some of the discussions we're having with. So DXvote is, DXDAO is building it mainly for ourselves because we need it, and if we don't have it, we're in trouble. But at the same time, we have the opportunity, and because partly because of Nylon's speeches and people seeing their governance systems like have problems, and Vitalik talks about reputational governance sometimes, and there's more and more interest around like other forms of governance other than just straight liquid token governance using snapshot and multisigs. And so everyone's trying to figure out what the future of governance is. Gnosis is launching something that they think helps, and Boardroom is doing what they're doing, and Orca is doing what they're doing. And so DXDAO is making what we think is the future and tools of governance. And so any projects that take a liking in that and have an interest in that, I think we should obviously talk with them about it. If they can advise on things that they would need, and actually if they could also contribute to the product that benefits all parties involved. And so anyone that gets aware or talks to people that it seems like they are searching for what we are trying to build, yeah, put them in touch with the Gov team, which or the DXbiz team, and we can start to include them in the conversations. And I don't think that we would like dedicate our resources at this point to like solving their specific needs, but like that could be something that happens in the future, and that could come with grants from those projects or dev resources from their projects contributing to like making DXvote and governance 2.0 achieving our goals. And so it's super cool if Rarible, they say they're using DAOstack. I don't know if they're using anything just yet, but like if they're trying to use DAOstack and Alchemy doesn't work, they could start using DXvote today. So that is something that we should like get them involved in, and any other projects that are looking for similar, we could get them involved as well.
And important to note that DXvote is the front end is completely open source, as of course are the smart contracts that are behind it that are based on the DAOstack contracts. So any project can pick it up and start using it. And if there's any momentum like that, that can end up contributing to an ecosystem of development around the project that could end up benefiting DXDAO as well, right? Like you could imagine Rarible devs saying, oh, like we can just fix this thing and submit a PR, and that benefits all DXvote users.
Yeah. And yeah, I think the network effects that could happen from something like this is great. And specifically, Rarible is, I mean, potentially low-hanging fruit because Eric knows sort of like the DAO stack system. And yeah, like, I don't know, I've been saying this, like this has gotten me in like, so like arguments within inside like the DAO stack when I was there. But if you could allow like the governing body to use their own token in, you know, the staking, like what we are doing right now with DXvote, I think this is like, it's an immense value proposition, and it gives an additional utility to the token. And I don't know, it's a no-brainer. You just needs to explain it properly. Yeah.
Nylon, the really important thing though for Rarible as an example, and then for almost all other projects out there, is that Rarible has already Rari token, and Rari token is the governance token of the system. And so, okay, allowing it for staking is one small thing, but they are trying to figure out how to do a governance system that Eric knows is like, you know, he knows what reputational governance is. And so there's like maybe like a smaller squad of people focused on governance that start to do things using reputational governance. But at the end of the day, people own, and investors and things own Rari token, and that is the governance token. So right now, like they might be using Snapshot and multisig, but they very quickly probably need something closer to governance 2.0, which that's great because we are going to have that at some point. But I'm not sure that it's gonna, like DXvote in its current state is not, it doesn't fit with like liquid token projects at this point. It's this weird dynamic. So I think they're trying to figure that out, and we don't have that figured out yet either, right? That people with Rari token are expecting to govern Rarible, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we do need that. Like, this is, I don't know, sort of like my proposal to hack the voting power formula in ETH Lisbon, and you know, figure out like how we can do that. Like it's mostly, I guess, specified in like the governance 2.0 working group. So yeah, I would like to do that, to create like a formula that unifies reputation and voting power tokens. Yeah, and then we could probably plug that in to like existing DAO frameworks, whether it's Snapshot or, you know, like holographic consensus like DAO stack.
And David, you are learning to code by ETH Lisbon, right?
I don't know. I mean, I've written some like basic stuff in Solidity, but I don't like it. So, yeah.
I've not been accepted, so no point in doing so.
you can be me. It's okay. Yeah, like maybe for like we have like another minute. Do we want to talk about just generally ETH Lisbon and what's planned there, or you know, if anyone has any comments about that?
Just more broad about DX events, which was a proposal that passed a while back, and it was a general proposal that like signaled that, you know, DX DAO members should participate in ETH Paris and ETH Lisbon and MCon and things like that. And so there is not always, it seems that there's not like, there is a general sentiment that the DX DAO should participate in these things. And so that proposal seems to outline some general guidelines, which is fine. So people have ideas of general guidelines, which also kind of implies like there's, I don't know if you specifically need like one-off proposals for every time people attend these events. Like there should be, okay, people should be aware of these events and like some general consensus, but there was like talk of like defining exactly everything and asking proposal ahead of time. And I think that according to the DX events signal proposal might not be necessary. And so, yeah, I think we don't know exactly how. I guess with ETH Paris and ECC, the way it worked was there were general guidelines included by that proposal, and then people just asked for like the travel stipend and the attendance, whatever, like in their worker proposal following the event. And if that's like the general way that it's going to be done, I think, and like, obviously people should not abuse it, and like it's good that people are aware, but I don't think all these things need to be like fully public on forums like prior ahead of time is my view. But
yeah, I guess there's questions of kind of privacy and operational security if you have to be like, oh, I'm going to be here at this time doing this thing, but at the same time there's a need for some verifiability on claiming the reimbursement. I guess I think a simple way to like help put it like some boundaries on it might be to have a yearly maximum for it, right? Because I think you do run into these questions of like what's really appropriate, right? Like if I like, like what, yeah, because there's always a range of like how much you could end up spending on things. And like, for example, this Masari mainnet event, which I'm going to next week, the ticket's like $2,000, right? Which is maybe a little steep for conferences, and it's a little out of the normal for what you would pay for an Ethereum conference. And so I'm not sure if I'm really comfortable asking for like a full $2,000 reimbursement from the DAO when like the typical conference ticket is like a few $100s. But I think like maybe an answer to that without having to like go too heavy on the process would just be to have like a yearly maximum.
Yeah, I think that all makes sense. I saw like kind of the conversation around this. I think it's good to just at least, even if this is part of whoever initially did the DX events announcement, to put some sort of post up for like, we're so ultra transparency, like legal transparency, treasury transparency. I think that it's the same thing with events, right? So we need to say like at least prior to the conference, a slight thing like, hey, people are going to this event and we're going to ask for reimbursement for it. I don't think that violates people's privacy. I think it just says DXDAO is going to have representation at this event, and it just gives the community a chance to say, hey, like, what's this event? So people, can be insured if they go, they get reimbursed for their time there.
Yeah, I mean, we could basically maintain a list of events, right? That would qualify. Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, and then like you said, some sort of annual limit. I think that's more than enough.
Is the annual limit like you're thinking of it per person, or?
That's a good question. Maybe the
like for everyone.
I think we need both, maybe actually, right? But I don't want to overcomplicate things. So
I think probably per person, and you could extrapolate like what that could be, and if everybody were using the maximum.
Yeah, I do think we should get like an idea of what like the next 6 months or a year would look like, and I don't know if we have been able to say that for the last year and a half because no one really knows. But if we are having some certainty, maybe we could like map out what are the big ones that people would like to go to that maybe do justify some of like the larger cost. And I guess the ETH DevCon is not happening this year, but maybe just thinking about what's the like, yeah, how much are we trying to spend on this over 6 months or a year?
I could also see like special budget being allocated for certain contributors that are in a role that maybe necessitates going to more conferences or speaking at more conferences, right? Like I could see like if like Nisa is going to a bunch of stuff, right? Like maybe there's like a general maximum for everybody, but then a special budget for people that are like, this is actually like integral to their role.
I guess the whole thing is also about avoiding conflict when you're actually trying to perhaps claim your money afterwards, right? Like John, like the example you just said, like, you go to the Messari conference, it's €2,000 the ticket. Also in crypto, it's not unheard of a $15,000 ticket or whatever, And if someone just tries to claim it back afterwards, well, no one knew that they were even attending or this amount was in play. I think it's just about avoiding that worst case scenario, right? It's not about prohibiting people from going to any conferences or so. But I think also just maintaining a list or something like that of, events we think are good. I guess we don't want to create an over bureaucratic process either, right? We have to keep tracking what everyone is spending here and there. I guess it's also an option to just try and see until we have an issue how it goes. But obviously, ideally, we would want to avoid any issues in the first place, right?
Totally.
Oh, sorry. So related but separate, there is so ETH Online, which is this upcoming ETH Global thing, been going back and forth. There's like this weird dynamic where ETH Global's like competitive nature is like the way they do their sponsorships and things, like it's their like secret sauce, I guess, right? And most the examples they give is even DAOs and projects that are out there, like there's usually like the marketing team and they have one-off conversations with them, and like the payment and things could be public, but all the details of like open community discussion around comparing all the details of the packages and things is not something that is typically done. And we're trying to figure out if DXDAO via some method, maybe it's like the DX Voice squad, has the ability to like make a decision for a sponsorship out of allocated like quarterly budget without making it like a fully open public community discussion. And if that is possible, I think there's an opportunity to still participate in become a active participant in these ETH Global events. Their team just has this concern of like these discussions and all of the details around the packages and what it's included and all that kind of stuff being like a fully open public discussion. And it's a weird dynamic because, most stuff in this space is like really fully open and public. But as we know, like even there's a lot of conversations that happen in the DXDAO community that are not fully open and public, right? There's in most Discord, even in Bankless or whatever Discord, like there's unlocked channels and locked channels. There's conversations that happen with core groups and there's conversations that happen in the open public forum. And so trying to figure out if DXDAO could participate and take action and make some payment without disclosing every single detail publicly, is that something we can do? Or is that if we can't handle that, then I'm not sure that we can participate in some of these types of events.
Yeah, so I totally think that we need to figure out like what does like a DXDAO community member look like a portal for that, and how do we we're not going to be able to have everything like fully open for everyone. There needs to be like, if you're a part of the community, if you're a DXD holder, if you're a reputation holder, then you can enter and see, and it's not like fully public. Like I think we need to figure out like how to structure that. Like a simple solution would be like Collabland, right? Like if you hold DXD, you can enter these channels. So yeah.
Yeah, but that's fully public then. If you hold DXD.
I was slightly distracted by this $25,000 ticket price when you were talking about this guy, but what about designating, contributors to handle?
Yeah, the DX Voice squad has an allocated budget for things like sponsorships and things. So can DX Voice make a hackathon pay for a hackathon sponsorship project like as a delegated decision that has been given from DXDAO already? Is DXDAO okay with that?
So is the question the amount of money that can't be made public? Because usually in our requests we say, hey, this is going to cost X amount of dollars.
No,
Because
the public payment will obviously be public because it's made on chain. The actual amount will be public, but the details of what it involves and
Okay.
everything will not be does not want to be public.
Right. Okay. So I have to deal with this all the time with stuff that I post for you know, when it comes to like legal stuff, like how much information is necessary information, right? So it's information that's like necessary for us to decide whether or not we want to do a hackathon. And we come up with this with DX Ventures because a lot of the people or projects that we're, you know, giving grants to don't necessarily want every single detail of their pitch deck, you know, put on the form, right? So we just have to figure out what that sweet spot is of like relevant information versus not relevant information, and just make sure that they're okay with what we're going to put up for the forum. And hopefully, you know, it shouldn't be too complicated, I hope.
So I guess my point is there was a proposal with a budget attached to that the DXDAO already has given money to the DX Voice Squad, and part of that is for sponsorships in events and hackathons. So do you need a separate on-chain proposal to make a payment?
I think that this came up actually once. This is my opinion. So this doesn't mean it's DXDAO's opinion, but like I consider those funds earmarked for those general purposes. And that because we're so ultra transparent that things kind of still need to be said, hey, you know, because basically that we're trusting the DX Voice Squad, the multi-sig, to allocate those funds. And that's a position of trust that we're putting in with a small group of individuals. In order to mitigate that, we do need to provide some information, even if it's just, we think it's a good idea to put this amount of money for this hackathon, that it needs to be put up on the forum at some point and given the, you know, okay. That's my opinion though.
Well, there's difference. So DX Ventures funds were earmarked and they're still held in DXDAO. This was money that was moved to like the fractional squad with like delegation granted through the signal proposal in order to spend that money in the outlined manners. It's already been approved to spend that on sponsorships.
See, that's funny because I still kind of considered it. I never considered that I would do the multi-sig based off of like our 5 members decision making. I still thought we would like confirm it with the community, but maybe that's just my misunderstanding of it.
Get consensus, but without doing necessarily having to do like a DXDAO on-chain proposal, right?
Something like that, maybe not on-chain, but at least a forum post. I think people need to know what happened to the money. Otherwise, that's how you get people spending other people's funds for things they shouldn't be spending it on.
Yeah, Keenan, how do you think about it?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I think I'm in obviously agreement that it was passed on chain that we have the ability to send money without the necessity of the proposal. But I also agree with the sentiment that there needs to be a general quorum for that money before we send it. But I do think there's room for case-by-case scenarios. If there's a necessity of secrecy for this, I think it's been delegated. And if that's a decision that needs to be made, maybe we can vote on moving forward with that without sharing the details widely on the forum. Not 100% what that would look like, but I see both sides, I think.
So I actually think like this is one of the things we should be discussing in like the retreat and figuring out these like sort of processes and yeah. Can you guys hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then maybe if we're kind of like on the topic of the DX retreat, if you're in the Lisbon group or you wanna, we have a 2-day workshop with Greater Than X. And if you would like to participate in the preparation for that, if you want to share some input, feel free to reach to Melanie or myself. And yeah, like we're trying to organize like what sessions we want, what do we want to talk about, and how do we want to structure this. So feel free to do that.
When should we discuss what the focus would be for the 8th Lisbon hackathon? Like whether we would be forming 1 or 2 groups and the products that we want to build. Would there be any time to do that tomorrow in the dev meeting, or would that be focused on swappers, so we have to do this at another time, or do we do it in the chat in Keybase?
I mean, typically at a hackathon, you do it at the hackathon anyway, right? But I guess if we are making a
you would have to like come up with what's your idea. You have to like pitch it before. Like you can always change, but I would start a thread on this on DAO Talk and like start brainstorming. And then like worst case in the DX retreat, like a week before, it's actually 2 weeks before, we could like discuss what we want to build. Maybe with some of the things will come up from the retreat that we want to build in the hackathon, and yeah, you can always change it. Like you're not really bound by any idea, even if you submitted that idea beforehand. Yeah, anyone wants to mention anything else or bring up any topic? Or, I mean, we're a bit over time, but yeah. Silence. All right.
Just buy your tickets for Lisbon if you haven't already.
Like flights or for ETH Lisbon? For
everything, especially the conferences. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you know of any events, like share them as soon as possible in like the chat, so everybody's aware. Yeah. So I think that's it.